you say that your body tenses up, but you are tensing it up. That's where level confusion comes in. You say, my body is doing something. It is tensing up. But it is not. You, experiencing anxiety, tense your body up to give it more density, to fool yourself into believing that it is more impervious by virtue of the tension, the tightness. And then, because you believe that your body is doing this, you then begin to believe what you're seeing, and you see your body as an enemy, which you must bring under control. You see? Then you say, my body has an actual disease, an ulcer, or a cancer. See, that's when you are believing what you're seeing. And that will lock you in to the experience of cancer and whatever your associated beliefs are about it. I will tell you all something. You could have much more creative beliefs about cancer. Your creative beliefs about cancer could involve the restructuring and rebuilding of a lost limb. That'll give you something to contemplate. A different set of beliefs about it would have a different effect. So, it is dangerous to believe what you see and say, my mind has created an actual disease. It's still as illusory and intangible as the confused thought that caused you to use your body in that way. Do you see? Mm-hmm. So indeed, you must dare to look at whatever the dis-ease is and recognize and be willing to recognize that it is an illusion caused by seeing what you have believed in your mind first, and then believing the result as though it's separate and different from your mind. Because until you realize that only mind has the capacity to be creative, you won't be able to get free of believing what you're seeing and changing your mind by being willing to turn around to the altar and say, God, what is this really? What is this thing I call body really? What is this thing I call world and universe really? If it's the effulgence, the manifestation of God being the movement of creation constantly, then you're all in store for the wonderful experience of having it revealed to you as what it really is. If you realize that the cancer, or whatever it might be, whatever dis-ease it might be, is nothing more than a mental distortion that was caused by the adopting of certain ideas and a commitment to those ideas, you will then have the means of being miracle ready, because you won't fight the cancer or the dis-ease. You'll turn around to God and say, what's the real meaning? And you will ask it with a conscious desire to have your belief replaced with the conscious experience of what it really is, the direct experience of what it really is. You see? Yes.
Okay. The body is a very cherished and long-held idea, as are sicknesses and the cause of sicknesses. Yet the Bible talks of you walking along with the multitudes and healing the people there.
Instantaneously, by the way.
Instantaneously. So you are seeing, when you see them, you see what you believe, so you don't see them as sick. Yet somehow this belief is able to shine from out of your mind and into theirs so that they can adopt the belief that you presented as well and experience the instantaneous healing.
There's one key point. They had to be willing. Miriam was not willing. And so she remained lame.
So the healing was only to those who came to you first seeking healing.
Exactly.
And in doing so, it was easier for them to accept your vision as their own?
They had to have their eyes turned toward the altar as well. Otherwise, all I would be doing would be creating a further illusion.
So so the healings are choreographed.
You might say that they are choreographed by the desire and willingness of the one wanting to be healed.
Which would be you as well as the blind man. Joined in that desire.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes. As I've said before, your good cannot be inflicted upon you. And knowing that is a step of empowerment for each of you. You say, oh my God, you mean it's all up to me? Well, I'll tell you something. If it was up to someone else, you would be at their mercy. What if they didn't choose to service you today? Oh, I'm busy today, come back tomorrow. You see?
But when you say is up to you, the you that you are is more than this body we think we are, which is part of the problem, which is part of the wrong-mindedness.
Yes.
Because the me that I am, or the I am that I am, is inclusive of all of us here.
That is correct.
So Virginia's healing is also my healing.
Absolutely.
And I guess I can see that shining by the effect that witnessing her healing has upon me or anyone else's.
And even those who haven't seen it and don't know it has happened.
Because it'll be there when their awareness is ready to.
Whether they like it or not, the density of the dream has lessened with every little insight that any one experiences. And any instantaneous healing that occurs that cannot be attributed to any physical cause causes such a shift in the experience and the mind of the one who had the healing that it touches everyone else as well. And it becomes easier for that to happen for everyone else. But it can't make anyone accept the truth.
A thing that was not necessarily confusing me, but when I was thinking about the correction of the mistake at the level that it's occurring on, I was getting this little, here's a chance to go back in and mess with it on my own kind of a thing, which instantly I knew that wasn't right, but that was sort of what was going on. I was like, is this an option for me to go back in and mess with this stuff on my own? And now I see from what you were saying that all that's going to be is the lesson. And I take that mistake at the level it appears to be, and that's what I turn to God. That's what I turn to the altar. And that's just a lesson for today. All it is a trigger. The action's still the same.
Yes. Let's say that with your back to the altar, you have taken on the persona of a warrior. And so you have your armor and you have your behaviors as a warrior, as a retaliator against the attack coming from the world. And then you get a little bit of illumination. And you try to incorporate it into your experience. And so you say, maybe the answer is not to be so warlike, but to express love. Oh, okay, well then I'm going to dismantle my fortress and I am going to make it lovelier. I'm going to make it less aggressive appearing, more benign appearing, more attractive so people won't be afraid of me, and I will behave in a new way that is loving. Because something in me tells me that loving kindness is more powerful than hate and attack. And so this person makes the appearance more lovely. But his back is still to the altar, you see. It is ultimately still a defense against being in one's right mind. It's still succumbing to the idea that the world separate from God actually does exist, but needs to be treated in a new way.
Feng shui or...
Pardon?
Feng shui or whatever, I mean, redecorate your life.
Indeed.
Make it more user-friendly or
And so one joins with others in a new set of mutually agreed upon definitions of behavior. And so you have, let us say, the United States or Western civilization. And they join together on a basis of justice, on a basis of respect for human rights. And they believe that their integrity and their high-minded values are a more worthy power or force in the world, which can cause those who don't yet understand it to knuckle under and get it, whether they've asked for it or not. Whereas if they turned to the altar, they would be filled with the experience of love that would illuminate them and their behavior, and there would be no occasion to force others to recognize love, but by being the presence of love, which has no ulterior motive to it, it would tend to melt the fear that would cause terrorism or that would cause retaliation. The behavior would be different, but the actual healing element would be the benign love at the center of it, radiating out and embracing everything without having a card up its sleeve, without having an ulterior motive of coercion. You see?
The redecorating your life and feng shui and making everything nice, so it seems...
Or redecorating the world according to high principles.
It seems better than overwhelming force using all our options. I mean, that's a long way from feng shui. But you're saying there's no difference between having an overwhelming force using all our options and just trying to tidy the place up a little bit and make
ignorance
it a little more
is ignorance, whether it's expressed beautifully or harshly. Get this clear, and you will attend to what will actually heal, what will actually transform. And you won't spontaneously give support to those who are rearranging the world from high principles. Do you see what I'm saying? And without support, they won't be able to remain, quote, in power, unquote. Let's continue.
Only the mind can create because spirit has already been created, and the body is the learning device of the mind. Learning devices are not lessons in themselves.
I'm going to repeat something here that I have said in the past. Whenever you look at the presence of God and say that it's something other than the presence of God, that particular presence of God becomes a learning device for you. When you look at the presence of God and say, that's not the presence of God, the fact that it is the presence of God and can't stop being the presence of God will constitute, I'm going to call, an ever-present assertion in your experience of what it really is, because it can't stop being what it is. And your denial of what it is going to cause a friction, you might say, a discomfort in you, because you can't be out of your mind and be comfortable. And so, whatever of reality you look at and you say it's unreal will become a learning tool. Not because that's its actual function, but because what it really is cannot escape you. And so what it really is will constantly nudge you, bug you, irritate you. Not because it's trying to be irritable, but because it will constantly insist upon registering with you as what it is. And so it will grab your attention and hold your attention until you bless it by saying, "What are you really?" In spite of what I believe you are, what are you really? And once what it is registers with you, you experience it as it is, for what it is, and it is no longer a learning tool, because there's no learning for you to experience about it. Here's another way of putting it. When you look at some aspect of the presence of God and say it isn't God, you have created ignorance of what it is within yourself, and thereby an opportunity to learn. And therefore that thing becomes a learning device. I want this brought out so that you don't demean your bodies by calling it a learning device that will disappear when you don't need to learn anything anymore. It's a learning device because it isn't what you have determined it is and what it really is with a capital R. Not only awaits your discovery, but insists upon being recognized by you, because it's God declaring Himself as Himself. And for you to recognize it is something you ultimately have no choice about, even though you can resist recognizing it for what it is for a period of time through a private, personal use of will. You see?
The whole Holy Spirit is a learning tool. I mean, all of our nature that we're denying, being held in trust, that whole
Absolutely.
thing is a learning tool.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Continue.
Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. The worst a faulty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. It has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. The body, if properly understood, shares the invulnerability of the atonement to two-edged application.
Yes. In other words, it's not available to be used positively or negatively. Not truly. Continue.
This is not because the body is a miracle, but because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation.
It's utterly simple. It's utterly simple and doesn't require interpretation. It only requires that you allow yourself to be present with it, with the willingness to experience it as it truly is. In other words, to experience the presence of God there with the meaning God is expressing of Himself right there. Continue.
The body is merely part of your experience in the physical world. Its abilities can be, and frequently are, over-evaluated.
Well, yes, they are, because just like the glow, the effulgence around the altar, if you are distracted from the altar and all you can see is the glow, then you give it much more value and much more meaning than it actually has. All it is the glow. The glow indicating the presence of a source of light. The light is what's significant.
However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world. Those who do so are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. If
Yes.
one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself.
Continue.
All material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles.
And let's look at this another way. Let us say that with your back to the altar, you have built a fortress, and you have built it with rock and mortar, and you find that it will not withstand the ravages of time, much less a bold assault on it. And so you decide that it needs to have some steel reinforcement. In other words, the remedy for the weakness of the structure is to be achieved by using a stronger physical structure to support it. That's the use of magic. You try to correct the problem by using a stronger belief in strength, rather than solving the problem itself, which is that you have your back to the altar. Continue.
This is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. It is a second misstep to heal it through non-creative agents. It does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil.
Now the rest of this paragraph is extremely important, and I'm going to let you read it without interrupting.
Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the atonement. In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. This is because the last thing that can help the non-right-minded or the sick is an increase in fear. They are already in a fear-weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a miracle, they may be precipitated into panic. This is likely to occur when upside-down perception has induced the belief that miracles are frightening.
Indeed. This is perhaps one of the most practical statements you will find anywhere in the Course. It's grounding and means that no one has to go off the deep end